Got it.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to probably episode number 2 of the Breakthrough Podcast. Today's guest, my friend, my brother from another mother. Know him through online marketing. Have a lot in common, but looking to hear his stories about leveling up. So, Seth, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to do this with you, bro. This is
Yeah,
great.
so you heard the first interview, so this is fresh, new podcast, but really just kind of stories about like leveling up and like really getting into the nitty gritty about those times where like you're like struggling and like you finally break through, which I'm pumped to have you on because compared to like a lot of like entrepreneurs, you're somewhat fresh.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I'm fresh.
yeah, like a
I got new
massive
money
level up.
now.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
interesting for everybody else to hear the story. I know it well, but it's I think it's going to be epic.
yeah, man. Definitely.
Before we kind of get into the stories and lessons learned and everything like that, I want to tell the people just a little bit about yourself, your background, where you came from, and
Yeah.
all.
Um, well, my name is Seth Dyer, and I teach the alchemy of success. That's what I like to tell people. Uh, I'm from Toronto. I am, my parents are Jamaican immigrants. So I grew up with a Jamaican heritage, Jamaican background, but my parents are also incredibly mixed. So they're my family's like the United Nations, you know what I mean? Just like cultural everywhere, cultures everywhere. Toronto was like that too. So I grew up with a lot of cultures. And I originally come from the music business. I got all my chops in the music business as an artist, producer, and engineer. I've worked with label clients. I've worked on my own music. I have over 3 million streams on Spotify. And yeah, that's where I really started learning business and learning about people, relationships, all that stuff within the music industry. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
um, I'm curious, when did you start, like when did you start making music, and what did you first, did you start singing, rapping, making beats, and when was that?
So I was always an artistic kid. So even when I was in like kindergarten, I don't know if you guys call it kindergarten in the States, but it's basically
Yeah,
like from ages 4 to 5, right? When
yeah.
I was in kindergarten, uh, I was super artistic. So the teacher would be like, okay, you got to write a story and draw a picture. And I would only draw the picture. I wouldn't write no story, right? So I'd only draw the picture. So I was always artistic. I was always like singing and stuff. My mother put me in piano when I was 6 years old. Absolutely hated piano. I did piano till I was about 12. And then when I eventually, I think my mom just couldn't take it anymore of me just like hating piano and complaining about it all the time. She's like, all right, you can come out. But then once she said that, it's like I dumped everything out of my head. I'm like, I no longer want this in my brain, you know? So it's like I unlearned everything. Then when I was about 15 years old, I picked up music again. I wanted to make beats like as just like a hobby. So I ended up reteaching myself piano, reteaching myself music. Um, I started as a producer. So I started making beats first. And then I was making all these beats, and I'm like, you know what? People aren't going to say what I want them to say on these things. So I'm going to say what I want to say on these things. And I started writing, and then I'm writing, and I'm like, well, I got to turn these into songs somehow. So I got to figure that out. And I went on YouTube, and I'm like, okay, so I need a microphone, I need this, I need all this stuff. I worked a summer job. I worked a summer job, a very interesting summer job. I was painting murals. Okay, who gets to get a job painting murals for a community center? So I painted a mural on a community center, and there's this place called the Scarborough Bluffs just outside of Toronto. I painted a mural there too, and I got paid to do that over the summer. Took all that money from that job, bought myself a computer and a microphone and an interface, and I started recording myself. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it's gonna be dope. I'm gonna record myself. It's gonna be all good. It's gonna be good to go. I could get it on the radio, all this shit,
Gonna
right?
blow up.
Right. So then I record myself and I listen back to it. And I'm like, wait, why doesn't this sound like the how it sounds on the radio?
Yeah, nobody knows what mixing is until they hear a song that's not mixed.
Exactly. So I'm like, wait, something's missing here. What the hell is going on? So then I had to learn I learned mixing because I went to look up studio time. And me being 15 at the time, I didn't have no studio time money. So I was like, shit, I got to figure this out. So I spent hours upon hours on YouTube learning. I managed to, and I was trying to learn how to mix and engineer myself for years, for about maybe 2, 3 years before I got an actual mentor, you know? And once I got a mentor, this guy's name was Fonz, and he was dope. He had worked with like DMX, he had worked with Jadakiss,
Hmm.
and he had a studio in a warehouse. He had a studio in a warehouse in this suburb of Toronto called Mississauga. And I went there one time and like he showed me all the stuff he was doing. And I just watched and I learned, and my mixing got a lot better working with Fonz. And then yeah, I started really taking music seriously from about 17 years old all the way till like 27, 28, I would say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you say that growing up, like, adolescent years, so the 12 to 18 range, would you say that music was your thing, or did you have any other like hobbies that you were really into?
I'd say music became my thing. When I was younger, I really wanted to go, this is gonna be funny. I really wanted to go work for Disney as an animator.
Okay,
Thank God that didn't happen,
right.
right? With what Disney's up to now. But anyways,
Drawing
so
a bunch of woke cartoons.
yeah, I couldn't do that. So because I could draw, I could draw really well. So from about the ages of like 7 to probably 14, I wanted to work in animation, 2D animation or 3D animation, go work for Disney. I did competitions for animation. Like our school had competitions with different school boards and shit. I got like prizes for that crap. So I really thought I was gonna go do animation. And then I picked up music and I was like, I don't want to do animation no more. Music feels better. So that's so then from 15 years old onward, music was my entire life.
Did you learn any like key life lessons from doing those that have translated into your current endeavors?
From the art world, like drawing and stuff.
Well, from music or
Oh
art.
yeah. Well, I would say what art taught me, especially 3D animation, is patience, because that shit takes long, bro. Super long. Like we had competitions, the competitions would last like 12 12 hours. You know what I mean? Long. So it taught me patience and working with a team because I had team members. And then music was taught me networking. The business of music is a people business. Like you can have all the talent in the world, you can have money, but if people don't like you, you'll get blocked. You won't go as far as you possibly can because it's who likes you, right? And a lot of people get by based on people liking them. It's a networking business. So the music biz taught me how to maneuver people and be well liked and shit and be cool because it's required. Otherwise, you can't move further. Yeah.
Yep, likewise. That was something that like you'd always hear people say that. I was just stubborn for too long.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you got a network and you need to make sure that your beats are like mixed and like their songs. And I was like, nah, they're gonna find these loops and I'm gonna blow up.
Exactly. It's gonna be fire. I'm fire, bro. I'm
Yeah.
fire. You know what I'm saying? So it's quality too. Like it's interesting, like you said, you can tell the difference between something being mixed and not mixed. And I took the
Mhm.
quality of my music very seriously. And I think at a certain point it made me stand out a lot because it was like, yo, why does this stuff sound so polished, like so professional, right? And that got me a lot of attention. And then that also got me work, right? Because I was mixing and engineering all this stuff by myself. I eventually got a job at a studio and I was able to make money through the music industry due to that. I was mixing and engineering people's stuff. I met a lot of people from that. And one thing engineering does, engineering taught me a shit ton, bro. Like so much. Engineering teaches you how to manage and maneuver people's egos because artists are incredibly egotistical, right? And like everything is nothing's their fault, right? The auto tune's wrong. Fix the auto tune. you're just singing wrong. The auto tune hasn't changed the whole song. You're just singing it wrong, but it's your fault. So you gotta, pretend like you did something to change it and have them sing again, right? So you learn to maneuver people's ego. You learn to not get upset about things, and you learn a lot of accountability because people will blame you for every single thing. And I appreciated that. I appreciate that now as I run my own businesses and stuff, and I'm an incredibly accountable person. Engineering taught me a lot of that.
At the time when you were kind of learning those lessons, were you like conscious of it that, man, these skills will be able to carry on to something else? Or are you just realizing that like looking back?
Yeah, when I was in it, I had no idea. It was just treading through the waters, navigating the industry, right? I had no idea that it would be transferable skills into other business endeavors. And I honestly think the music game is hard mode, bro. Like, because the music game, a lot of people don't have money, a lot of people are shady, a lot of people can lie, right? It's very common. So you gotta be on your P's and Q's. You gotta know how to vet people. Um, but then you get into other business. It's not to say that those things don't occur, but I notice they happen a lot less, right?
Oh
So
yeah. I think
so
like for some people in the music industry, it was almost like they took that as a skill. Like if they could work people over, they were like proud of that. It was like a
yeah,
game. And that
yeah.
was like, yeah, you'll see like shady, real estate deals and people inflating their prices and stuff like that. But it's never like, man, I just worked this person over, where it's like
Yeah,
it's
like
like
I
that in music.
so I used to work with a guy. The very first job I got as an engineer, right? The head engineer there, he used to basically take people's money for a project and then not finish the project or not do the
Mhm.
work, or people running around looking for him. No one can get him on the phone. They're calling my phone. They're trying to get work, blah blah blah, right? And I'm like, this is just terrible. You're taking people's money, and you're not only you're taking their money, you're taking their dreams, and people get very upset about that. And I have some crazy stories, right? Where people were looking for this guy, and I could have gotten into a lot of trouble. And thank God, those networking skills that I talked about, I built rapport with a lot of people. So they never wanted to like come for me, right?
Mhm.
But it could have got dangerous.
So it definitely gave you like a thick skin when you're, venturing out into the business world now, I bet.
Hell yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. But what's
Oh,
interesting, what's interesting though, is that whole thick skin concept. I've actually always been that way, but that's because of prior life experience. So when I was about 4 years old, I was in the hospital with a life threatening disease. I was quarantined. So I had chickenpox mixed with a strep disease, so a flesh eating disease, right?
damn.
And I'm still handsome, so it's all good, right? And I was quarantined away from all the other kids. I was in a kid hospital. I was quarantined away from all the other kids, and it is basically a near death experience. I don't remember how long I was in the hospital, maybe 2 weeks, right? But I remember like every moment of it. And when I was finally recovered and I left the hospital, right? And I was running down the hallway as a 4-year-old kid, I will never forget that moment. Like, it's one of the most gratitude filled moments of my life. And from then, there hasn't been much that's been able to bother me because I know you could be dead, right? So to me, it's like I'll be okay, right? I've been through harder things. So I was actually lucky for that experience, that it toughened me up from young, you know?
That's an epic lesson to learn at such an early age.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
next question. Like, did you remember that? Because my son's 10, and like that seems to be the cutoff point. Most people don't. I don't remember when I was 4 and my
I
son
I
was
remember I remember that.
yeah,
I
so
remember those
so
events,
vivid.
but it's only because they were traumatic, right? It's only because it was traumatic. So it's like it obviously stayed in my mind due to that. But if you see, people have this word trauma, and a lot of people don't get over or get through quote unquote trauma. But I'm super grateful for all the bad shit that's happened in my life, including that event, because that's made me have tough skin, bro. Like, there's not much I can't get through, to be honest with you. I fully believe that.
bro, that's why I'm doing the podcast, is
Yeah.
that exact idea. I honestly think it's the key to life. Like, the hero's journey. It's like every movie tells this story, even,
Mhm.
down to the Bible, the resurrection, right? Being born again, stuff like that. I really think it's just metaphors for trying to tell this story. And you learned it at at 4 years
Or
old.
yeah.
And for the people listening out there, listen to that little that frame of mind. He sees himself lucky that he got to go through that. On the flip side, think of how many people, like, with the exact opposite mindset, like,
Mhm.
could have gone either way. He saw himself as lucky that he got to go through that, whereas other people could have been like, woe is me, I've been sick since an early age and like life's out to get me, right?
Yep. Yep.
So pay attention, folks.
For
um,
real.
were you my next question, were you always kind of like, driven and kind of, did you always have like a drive like that and kind of a positive mindset?
Uh, I would I would say for most of my life, yes. Then when I hit about 21-ish, about 21 years old, there was that time where like the weekend was really popular and all this like depressive hip hop and like depressive urban music was like emo hip hop was like popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
So me,
Drake.
yeah, Drake, right? And I started making music like that. And my life started to become incredibly chaotic, incredibly problematic. I started having a lot of self-doubt, right? And it was because of the things I was saying in the music. I had no reason to be saying these things in the music, but I made my life that way because of what I was saying. So I would say for most of my life, it's incredibly driven, right? And then I hit that point, and I was actually getting a lot of attention for that music and meeting a lot of people, but I wasn't in a good mental space. And then when I stopped making music like that, it was back on track, right? So I'm like, I need to be very careful with the things I say because they pop up in my life, you know.
Interesting.
But
And
I
you
would
kind
say
you
for the
kind of
most part,
see you see that in music too. Like the people that do make that type of music, you can kind of see their personal lives. That's interesting.
yeah, yeah. And when I look back at a lot of the music I put out, um, after that is incredibly motivational. When I was listening to some of my music the other day and I'm like, oh yeah, it's all like motivation and inspiration and like telling people I was going to be rich even when I was super broke, telling people how hard I worked, to talking about just like maneuvering through the game and not having no money but still getting a million streams, you know? So it's kind of what I do now. It's like a different side of the same coin, right? I just talk to people on YouTube and talk to people in real life and inspire and motivate them the same way. It reminds me of making music when I'm on YouTube and stuff, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did you so you kind of always had like a positive mindset besides like that little the weekend period?
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah.
was
And
there
I
anything
think
that like upped it? Like, was there ever like a book that like really set you on fire, or
oh
documentary,
yeah, a
or
lot of them.
anything like that? Like a big catalyst for change?
I think so. In my last year of university, I read the 48 Laws of Power, which was cool. It was like instructional, but I think the 50th law, which is Robert Greene and 50 Cent, both
Mm,
wrote that together. The 50th law is about overcoming fear, right? And I think that book had a lot of influence on me. One, because I looked up the 50 Cent, and two, just the content of it I could relate to. You know, he was turning shit into gold. You know what I mean? And I felt like I didn't have nothing. I need to turn shit into gold too. And he was fearless. So now when I look at my life, I'm like, make the brave choice. If you make the brave choice, you'll be rewarded. Every time that I've had a decision to make and I could have made the choice that was like easier and more like cowardly, or the brave choice has always been the right choice to make. And if I made the other choice, I wouldn't say regret it, but it didn't turn out well, right? So 50th
so
law was incredibly influential.
perfect segue. It's kind of the next topic. Let's zero in on a time like that. So let's describe like a massive like a breakthrough that you had.
Yeah.
Maybe not the
So
most not the most recent one, but maybe one like back in the day. So
yeah,
um
yeah, because I got lots of them. So
so
I'll start with not the most recent, but before that, maneuvering in the music business, right? I could not get any attention, like period. I was putting out music. I had the quality down, like all this stuff, right? But I was not getting no attention. No one was hearing it, nothing. And I was like, damn, man, like what am I gonna do? Like I know I'm meant to do this, I feel, and I'm talented, and everybody I run into when I do shows and all this stuff, they're amazed. Like I would perform, and then people would be like, oh, he must be the headliner. I guess the show's done. And I used to feel bad because other people would be following me, and then they're like, "Oh, the show's done," and people would start leaving, right? So I'd be like, "No, you gotta go back. There's more people performing," right? But I was like, "How the hell am I getting any attention?" So I decided I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put out at least 7 songs in 7 weeks, just back to back to back to back, right? And see what happens. And I did that for 6 weeks, right? I did it for 5 weeks. As the sixth week was coming, no one had still heard nothing, no one heard anything. So I'm like, I'm chalking this up as a loss. I'm still putting out the next song, but I'm chalking this up as a loss. And I'll learn what I need to learn from it. And my younger brother calls me and he's like, yo, one of your songs is on this playlist I listened to on Spotify. I'm like, okay. At the time, I didn't have Spotify. I didn't really know what Spotify was, to be honest with you. But he was like, yeah, I listened to it on Spotify. It's on this playlist called Hip Hop Central. I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's like, yeah, it has 50,000 streams. I'm like, 50 who? Wait, did you say, wait, you said 50,000? He's like, yeah, 50,000, like three zeros at the end. I'm like, what? Right. So I download Spotify. I see this song. It was a song called What You Need. I see this song is on this Hip Hop Central playlist, which is like a big Canadian playlist. It's next to Drake. It's next to Tory Lanez. It's next to like all these people making waves, right? Then because I was singing a bit on it, then I go see the R&B playlist. It's on an R&B playlist, big R&B playlist, and it's next to Daniel Caesar, who's a big artist at the time. Daniel Caesar, her, like it's next to all these big names. I'm like, damn. And then that song went to 100, 200, 300. It's at 500,000 streams now. So that was crazy. That was just persevering, you know, and actually putting something out because I thought I needed all this shit. Like I thought like, oh, I need a PR person, I need a manager, I need press, I need to talk to the blogs, blah, 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 right? And nothing was happening, nothing was coming because I wasn't get garnering any attention. But then when I was like, fuck it, just do it, something happened, right? Song blew up. And then the people that I thought I needed started coming to me, right? So that was a good little lesson of perseverance, you know.
what was your biggest takeaway from that?
It's on you. It's on you. Before you start looking at all the other people to get things done for you, what is necessary for you to do to make that happen? For other people to come to you, how do you get a pull dynamic instead of a push dynamic, right? Because once I hit over 1 million streams on Spotify, I was one of the first of my peer group to do it, and probably one of the first in the city to do it, right? And once I did that, it was all pull. People are like, yo, how'd you do this? And people are paying attention to my music. People are learning about me as a person. People are coming to my shows and saying the lyrics. Like it was all pull, but I
So
had to pull the trigger, you know?
massive difference after just taking like that in your mind it was like a massive action, right? Like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm taking it out. I don't need PR. I don't need marketing. I'm just gonna make it happen. And it always works out like that, bro. It's like on the last leg of it, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was like the
Yeah.
sixth week. You're like, oh shit, it didn't work. And then you found out it did work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Well,
funny how that
was
happens.
was that like a big level up career wise, like from like that, 1 week you're at one level, and then 6
Yeah.
weeks
It was a
later.
massive jump. It was actually a massive jump because one, I started getting some money off of music, right? And it was more than it is now. Like streaming is super low now. It was low then, but it was decent, right? Um, so I got some money off of music. So I was one of the first people I knew to get paid off of music. And it was like I had a cheat code. It was like, how did he do this? Right? How did he do this? Right? Plus, it made people want to get songs engineered and produced by me because they're like, well, he must have the sauce. So they would come get their stuff engineered and produced by me. So that made me more money. And then I could tell them about, what I did on Spotify. I started learning a lot more about how the algorithms and the playlists work. And it was a huge shift. It was a tipping point. Malcolm Gladwell, you know.
uh, another one kind of catalyst and like inspiration for the podcast and this idea is the talent code, which
Mm-hmm.
we talked about. So I found this a lot. Like it really resonated with me, maybe just because I was reading it when I had the recording studio. But it's like, there's that point where you're like, you almost got the mix perfect, or like you almost got the chord progression, but like a note's off, and you're just like, oh, you're like almost there. And
Yeah.
they describe it. It's not the tipping point, but it's similar to that idea that there's like a point in a learning process, and once you crash through that, once you break through it, you develop what's called myelin around a cell, and like you're
Mhm.
literally physically, it's a microscopic level, but you're physically changed from that point on.
I
So
100% agree with that and believe that because it's also funny once you do hit that point of like it clicks, it seems so easy. Like it's like it was all this
yeah, like
hard work.
riding a bike is another one of those things to where like
Mhm.
you can never like go back to it. Like you're never going to forget how to ride a bike. Like
Exactly.
you literally leveled up, and once you do that, yeah, obviously there's ups and downs, but you'll never go back to like that mental place that you were at, before you started the 6 week or 6 or 7 week rollout, right?
Hmm.
Leveled
Hmm.
up. So perfect. I knew
Yeah,
you.
it's a new baseline, It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, uh, what was that? That was like maybe 5-ish years ago. Like,
Yeah, 5, 6 years ago, that would have been 2016, 2017.
so let's just show kind of like the a really good example of the level up, right? Like what were your income goals at that time?
Oh man, I was like, if I could just make 4 grand a month, I would be the happiest guy ever. Like,
Yeah, bro, that was my first one after I read To Think and Grow Rich.
yeah,
The first time I ever like wrote goals down, and it was like it's embarrassing, but it's like I want
yes,
to make, I want to make 50K per year. Like I
yeah,
want to
yeah.
have some part-time money from making music. Like
Hmm.
I found that paper though, like a year or two later, I was like, damn, like I hit everything on there. It's pretty dope.
For real, it's crazy how stuff changes, and writing things down is really important. But I remember like I was like, if I could just make 4K a month, I'd be so good, so good.
Mhm.
And then, well, later on in life, I started making 4K a month, and I'm like, it's not enough,
Yeah,
right? So, but I remember that was a big milestone for me.
perfect. So
Yeah.
that was like kind of a, earlier level up. So we've seen kind of what gave you like the mindset in the beginning from an early age, started learning music. That was like your aha moment in the music industry.
Mhm.
Let's go back to like around 2 years ago, where
Yeah.
we first started linking up. 'Cause that's,
Yeah.
bro, huge. I've watched
Crazy story.
it. It's been really cool. So let's
So
let's talk about that.
so I was making some money from music, right? But eventually, like, the amount of streams I was getting was starting to dwindle a bit. I wasn't making as much money there. Some studios that I was working with, they ran into problems mainly because of people that can't do business, So I ran into some problems. So I was missing out on some money there. And like there was just money being lost everywhere. Right. And then COVID hits and freaking now the studios are closing, but low key we were still running stuff. Right. But people were afraid to come to the studio, not making money. I was broke, bro. Negative bank balances, debt. I was sleeping on the floor with my girl, right? Sleeping on the floor of her parents' basement. No sheets. I just basically had enough money to put gas in my car to go to the studio and come back. So basically, I was working to keep my car, pretty much, right?
You were
And
working to work.
exactly, I was working to work.
Yeah.
Like, I was working to work, right? Working to keep my car. And I was like, man, something needs to change. This is not my life. Like, I'm too fly for this, and I'm not this guy. I know I deserve more, and I know I can do more, right? And what I started doing was changing my circle, was changing the people I hung out with, right? I managed to maneuver to hang out with people with more money, right? And I learned more things, and I got into a form of influencer marketing where I was helping creators blow up blow up like social media accounts and monetize it, right? Sell something. You have all these people following you, you can sell something. And I learned that from music, right? It's like I knew all these artists that had these huge followings, and I'm like, yo, why aren't you selling nothing? Go sell some t-shirts, sell something, right? So I started doing that with people. I started making money, and that absolutely changed my life. Like I remember when I started hanging out with people with more money, there was this dinner that I was going to go to at this place called Louis Louis in Toronto, rooftop dinner place, nice spot. And I knew we were going to order the most expensive things on the menu, but I'm like, there is no way I can't hold my weight at this dinner. Like I got to be able to pay my bill. And I found the money. Like I maneuvered around to find the money, and it just shows you the people that you hang out with. It increases your baseline. It's like a rising tide lifts all ships. Because I was like, there was no way I'm gonna get left behind. So your brain starts working differently. You start figuring out how to make money and shit. And within my first year, I made over I made over 100 grand. So changed my life. Moved out the basement. I I could afford my car, I could afford nice clothes, I would change my entire life. You know what I mean? And it was all from people like you, bro. You know? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you know, you kind of talked about, I like to call it, I describe it as like burning the bridges,
Mm-hmm.
like leave, like there's, you leave yourself with no other option. So it's like
Yeah.
you were, you were either gonna, you probably, I know it. I've been there before. So I think you probably had the similar mindset, but it was like, all right, like, were there points where like, okay, if this doesn't work out, like I'm going to be homeless, like we're
Yeah.
either homeless or we're going to get to, rich.
Yep. 100%. 100%. It's like either you're, yeah, exactly as you said. You're either homeless or it's get rich or die trying, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what it was. It's like I need to get money. I need to I need to do something. I need to change my freaking life. I cannot live like this, right? And I know as much as I'm willing to risk is as much as I can gain. And what the whole music thing taught me with that song that blew up was that you get favored for taking a bet on yourself. Like when you bet on yourself, anytime I bet on myself, I haven't lost. What's funny, it's not like gambling. It's not like poker. Okay. But when I bet on myself, like my ability to do something, I've never lost.
It is it's the only way I can use a metaphor to describe it. And not just like a couple chips, not like a quote unquote like smart bet. You went
All in.
all in. That's what I
Right.
found. If you
Yeah.
do it half-assed, if you have like a backup plan, like
Yeah.
you
Cause
could have easily like gone, you could have went and like worked construction and or something like that and paid the
mm-hmm.
bills. right? But
Yep.
where would you be at now if you did that?
And I stopped taking studio clientele. Like a lot of people, I still have great relationships with them, but I know it burned and hurt them that I wasn't going to record them anymore. You know what I mean? So even that put a little strain on my relationships. Luckily, they're good now, but like put some strain on my relationships, put risk to other people's businesses where they're like, yo, like Seth, you're our engineer. Like, what the hell are you? What do you mean you're not gonna do this?
Mm,
Right. I wasn't doing it. I had to be out of it. Cause also too, the environments of a lot of the studio stuff were not that conducive to success in the way I wanted to be successful because it's like a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, and then of course like a lot of songs that don't necessarily have the best messages behind them. Um, danger, like everyone I'm working with is involved in a lot of sketchy shit. You know what I mean? So it was like I can't necessarily stay around this, you know.
yeah. So, like I said, yeah, you burned your bridges, and you could have
Mm-hmm.
easily, like, you could have kept one foot in there and like gone done the studio time and like get to pay some bills. You probably took like a financial step back to go all in, on the current social media stuff, and we'll get into some of the other stuff that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
as well.
I would say like, bro, like it was all in, all risk on myself because I would say a lot of people ask me like, how do you meet rich people, Seth? Right? And you could be clever and like be a photographer and go to a supercar rally and take pictures of the cars and get people's contacts or whatever, right? But they might not let you in, right? That might be hard. You could go to the real estate meetings. You could go to all these things, right? But that is tougher networking if you don't have the soft skills, right? But now we have access to like a bunch of online communities, and a lot of online communities have rich people in them, right? So that's what I did. I was like, yo, I got to get into some kind of online community with rich people. So um, that's what I took. I borrowed money to be able to do that because some of them are expensive to get into, right? Or expensive at the time to me, right? Were expensive to get into. I borrowed money from one of my homies who had his money together and believed in me. He was working with me on the music stuff and he believed in me. And he's like, well, Dyer, champ is what he would call me. He still calls me champ, right? He's like, all right, champ, I believe in you, bro. Do it. And he was right.
Yeah,
So
that's what I thought. That was crazy. That was a huge, like, you could tell there's no way you were gonna do something like that unless you really believed it was like you were gonna, you know, level up, right? Literally
yeah,
sleeping on the floor on fumes and then borrowing money to go negative just to be around like the right people to kind of like, raise your frequencies up. Which
exactly. Exactly.
and how many rich people do you know that would have been like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. That's too much money.
90% of them, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, bro, he's like, I watched him like literally not even 10x is probably an understatement.
Yeah.
Just 2 years. Bro,
So,
also another like kind of huge level up, which he just the first time we met in Miami, we sparred,
mhm.
and I could tell that was the first time you've ever sparred, right?
That was the first time I ever put gloves on, bro.
Yeah, I remember you like you didn't know how to rap or anything like that.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit if you
Oh
don't
yeah.
mind, because that was a massive level up. Like, if you want to talk about the motivation into why you wanted to learn that, and talk about like kind of the recent
Yeah,
experience that you
absolutely. So
that'd be
yeah,
great.
we met in Miami. We did some sparring. It was the first time I ever put gloves on. I got knocked around a bunch, right? But the reason why I wanted to take combat seriously was because this was close to around the time when I was kind of siphoning out of the whole engineering thing. This one client called me and he was like, Seth, I just got to get in the studio, like just real bad. I got to get in the studio. And I just know something amazing is gonna happen. I'll pay you extra. I just got to do it today. I'm like, okay. And something told me, do not take this session.
Mm,
But I wasn't following my instincts because I needed money. Even
jeez.
my girl was like, I don't think you should take this session. I think you should stay home. And me thinking she's a woman, she just wants me to stay home and have my time. Right. So that's what I'm thinking. Right. But I'm like, I'm going to do the session. It's going to be all good. Worked with this guy before, but when I've worked with him, other people have been around. Now it's just going to be him one on one. Right. I'm like, I'll be fine. Pull up to the studio. He shows up late and he's like, Seth, I just want to tell you, I spoke to God yesterday and he told me to tell you that you're the greatest of all time. But I'm fighting demons. Okay. I'm fighting demons. I'm like, okay. To me, these guys say they're fighting demons when they don't have any weed to smoke. So I'm like, all right, maybe he just doesn't have no weed. Right. So he's like, I'm fighting demons. Can you take the microphone out of the booth? Because the demons are in the booth. And the way my studio was, like, I could take the microphone out the booth and record him and it would be fine. Right.
Mhm.
So take the mic out, start recording him. And I remember the song. This song, he just kept saying the word coffin, 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 coffin. He said, coffin, blah, 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 coffin, coffin. I'm like, all right. And mind you, it's about like 3 minutes worth of this, right? And the song. And he's taking it over and over and over. You know how recording goes. Like he's taking over and over. And it gets to a point, maybe 2 hours in now, right? He messes something up, probably the word coffin. and, and and I stop it, right? And he's like, Seth, don't stop me. I see what's going on in your mind, and it's okay. Don't stop me. I'm like, okay.
Mm.
Press record again. Now I didn't stop him. Now he throws the headphones off, tosses them to the ground, right? He's like, Seth, you don't pay attention. I need to write you a message from the devil. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go, right? Now I'm in some trouble. And mind you, at the time I was probably 130 pounds. This guy's bigger than me, right? He's probably walking around at like a 180, 190, maybe, right? And my thing's getting all blurry. Let me get back into focus. All right. So he so so he's like, I need to write you a message from the devil. Find me a pen and a pencil. And I'm like, I don't got no pencil and pen here. This guy found a pencil on my desk. And he's like, I need to write you a message from the devil. And he's walking towards me. And now I'm walking back, but I'm walking into a corner, right? And there's a chair there. And he pushes me into the chair, right? And mind you, at the time, like I said, I was working with some people kind of sketchy. And he was like, You're lucky. You're lucky I don't have my gun on me right now. I'll blow your brains out. I'm
God.
like, Well, thank God that's not happening. Right. I'm like, you know what? I can get out of this. And he's like, But he looks at the sky. He's like, But I can still kill him with my hands. And then he throws two punches at me, breaks my glasses. Right. And And then I'm like, no, this is not how I go out. This is not my story. Like I've been through too much shit. This is not how I go out. So I guess adrenaline just hit me and I started tussling with him and I tossed him over something that was in the studio. And as soon as he hit the ground, like his mind changed. He was like, Seth, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. I'm just a scared kid. I'm just a scared kid. Please, please don't hurt me. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. Now I'm thinking I need to get the hell out of here, right? But it's February in Toronto. It's one of the coldest days of the year. It was literally one of the coldest days of the year. So I'm like, I need to get out of here, but I'm not leaving here without my coat because I'll get hypothermia and die anyways. So so I can't do that. So I'm over here maneuvering, get my coat on. He's a little more calmed down, right? And I push the door open and I jet down the hallway, blast outside. I'm running. Little do I know, this guy's chasing me. So he, boom, knocks me down in the parking lot, right? And he's trying to choke me out. Three
Oh,
cars pass by, right? No one does nothing. Three cars pass by, and this guy's trying to choke me out. He's like, Seth, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail. Please, no, no, no. I'm like, bro, you're not going to go to jail. And he's here choking me. And he's like, Seth, look at the sky. Look at the stars. You see that one there? That one's you. And then he let go and he ran away. He let go and he ran away. He's like, don't hurt me, you fucking crazy person. So now I'm like running. I'm blasting down the block. There's a mosque down the block. My face is all bloody from he punched me and knocked me to the ground and shit. And I'm like, I need help, right? So they let me into the mosque, clean up. Mind you, back at where the studio was, it was a building that had a bunch of studios in it, right? And he's at the front desk now talking all this crazy shit. So they call the police on him. I go back to the studio now because the guy calls me and says, like, we picked up this guy that was in your unit, right? So I go back now, police escort, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna get my stuff. I look at the studio, it's a mess, right? The guy who runs the building, he's like, dude, they carried this guy out in a t-shirt and socks, sweating. Right. So came to find he was on a bunch of drugs and shit and was having a bad trip or some shit, right? But from that event, I was like, I can never be in a position where I cannot adequately defend myself hand to hand, close quarters. There's no way it can happen. So recently, April this year, I won a boxing fight. I won all 3 rounds. I trained 12 weeks for it. It was some of the most intense, difficult things I ever done. I did a training camp in Spain for a month. And that was probably the hardest mental and physical thing I've ever done. And it taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a shit ton about myself. Like hopping into that ring, you think that you know fear, you don't know fear, bro. That shit messes with you until you get in the ring, till you take that first step and throw that first punch. And that experience absolutely changed my life. I'm a different man due to what happened to me and what I turned it into. And you might see in my life, there's a common theme of me taking shitty situations and turning them into something amazing for me. That's why I tell people I teach the alchemy of success. I will teach you how to turn something bad into something good. I've been doing it my entire life, right? Even music. If something bad happened to me or I was sad, I could write a song, record the song, put it into the world, and get paid for it. I just turned something negative into something positive. I'm an alchemist.
Hell yeah. I love it. So yeah, bro, I wanted the people to hear that because that's an epic story. One, just the the inspiration for that. I mean, another probably, near death experience. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
didn't, maneuver out of there, that guy was obviously like fucking tripping his balls off and could
Yep.
have killed you, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So but then, bro, just to go from like never sparring and then within like what was it, like a year and a half ish,
Year and a half. Yeah. Yeah.
steps into the ring for his first amateur fight. And
Yeah.
this isn't
Yeah.
it wasn't just like a smoker, it was like a pretty official fight, no
Mm-hmm.
headgear,
Mm-hmm.
um and smoked the guy. So
Yeah.
epic. Also just um like physical fitness wise, you've put on like what, 30 pounds of
Yeah.
muscle.
Yeah. Bro, my life in the last 2 years has been all transformation, but it boils back down to who you are around because everyone else around me is fucking lifting weights and getting jacked and ripped and strong and shit. I'm like, well, I can't do this. And for the longest time, for about 3 years, right? Okay, so I'd say about 5 years ago, I was vegan for 3 years. Terrible
Damn.
decision, absolutely terrible decision for my health, right?
Mhm.
I at first I felt great, like you're eating all this nutrient dense food, blah blah blah. About first year, I actually felt amazing. Now, after the first year, I started to feel shitty. I was hungry all the time. I had lack of energy. I couldn't sleep well. Couldn't put on weight. Nothing. Right? Just felt like shit. And um, in the last 2 years, I changed my diet. Right? Started taking fitness a lot more seriously, and I put on 30 pounds in 3 months, bro. 10 pounds a month. And it wasn't fat. I fought at 165, and the heaviest I was before that was 130 pounds. And I fought at 165. So,
Unreal.
bro, it's all mental. Whatever you put your mind to and really dedicate to and be disciplined about, you can do it. I had to eat a shit ton of food. I didn't want to eat it, right? But it was more important to me to get fit and strong than to like complain about eating a lot of food, right? So transformation, bro. Anything is possible. Anything is possible, you know.
The Alchemist.
Yeah. I like that book too, actually.
Yeah, it
Not
was.
not all of Paulo's other stuff, the author, but I do like The Alchemist.
Yep, that was it was a good one. I've
Yeah.
read that one. Um, oh yeah, I wanted just like just give the people kind of an example of like the level up you done, right? So we talked about like in music when you thought like 4K per month, that was the pinnacle.
Hmm.
We don't have to do exact numbers. Maybe like, hey, what's your current goal? That's like obviously we set high goals. Like give them like maybe an idea of like where you're at now.
Yeah.
What's your compared to that?
My goal is to do 100K a month. And the other day I had my first 25K week.
There
So
we go.
so I'm on the way.
So
And it looks like I might be on the way to have another 25K week. So
let's go.
back to back. What the alchemist, what happens once will not happen again, but what happens twice will surely happen a third time.
I like
So I'm on
that.
the way, bro.
Well,
Yeah.
you can see it. I mean, remember you probably had like every entrepreneur like their first goal is like 10K per month.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Was that was probably yours when you were first starting out, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. So, well, first it was 4K, right? I
Well,
did the
yeah, during
4K,
music, yep.
then realized that wasn't enough. Then I got to 10K, in big part due to like a lot of the things you teach, right? So I got to 10K, and 10K a month was life-changing money.
It
Like
is.
at that point, it was like, yo, there's actually not much I can't do, right? Which is pretty good. But then your lifestyle moves up, right? Like I moved my lifestyle up. It didn't have to, but I did because I'm a fly guy. I wanted to do it, right? So my lifestyle moved up, and then I'm like, well, I need to make more. And I also like the game of money. You know what I mean? Like some people,
Same.
they're like okay with, okay, I know I want to make this much. I know I want to do this much, right? But me, I like the actual process of business. I like the game of money. I like how it works. So I'll
I
keep
just
playing.
like the leveling up aspect of it. Like I'm addicted to that feeling of like that feeling you hit when you first had the 4K month.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm addicted to that.
Real talk. Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, so guys, just to kind of see an example, like he's gone from 4K per month, like oh, that's the pinnacle. Now he's doing 25,000 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason I brought up the $10,000 thing, one, I agree with you. I feel like that is a huge level up for most people. That's where
Mm-hmm.
you, at least for me, that's where you literally feel like the stress kind of leave about
Yeah.
because you can obviously you can spend way more than that, but like to live an average lifestyle, like you're comfortable, which
Mm-hmm.
that's nice, especially if you've been broke before. but
Yeah.
but if you think about it, like that was maybe like a year ago, little
Mm-hmm.
over a year ago when you were hitting like started to do like 10,000 per month,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
which is huge. But now that's just like that's
Yeah,
common at this
yeah, it's
point, right?
common, it's normal. And especially like I said before, the circle you hang out with, right? So it's like if everybody's making five figures a month, right? Or everybody's making at least 10K a month, then there's the guys who are doing 50, 60, 70, 100 a month. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, how do I do this now? Right? Because it's doable, it's possible. And yeah, so it's the people you hang out with. Everyone's got to be pushing each other to be greater all the time, you know?
That was one of the things that I took away from music, like that I learned about myself, or I think I've kind of always been like that, but it clicked is when I got around like people successful in the music industry, like you hang out with like a big producer, a big artist or something like that. To me,
Mhm.
it's just like, oh, it makes it real.
Yes.
Something about that.
Yeah, 100%. Because I remember being in certain conversations and guys are talking about, yeah, I just did this $2 million oil and gas deal, or I just did this $250,000 deal here. Oh, we
Mm-hmm.
have a SaaS company that did 100K for this. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm just trying to get $200. Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? I'm like, this shit is real. And the way it's so nonchalantly talked about too, it's just normal, right? And now I have some of those conversations myself, and I'm like, I look back at my old self, and my old self would be like,
Hell yeah.
holy shit, dude.
I love
You
that.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we like mapping out our goals and shit together, like I'm
Mhm.
like, damn, remember like 3 or 4 years ago, like the goals that you had, and now we're like pissed, like, damn it, I only did X amount this month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Wild. Yeah, bro. That's what it's all about. I think you feel the same, bro. So
Mhm.
epic story. So before we kind of wrap things up, well, actually tell the folks a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so now I've recently launched a personal development program. It's called The Next Realm. And that's where I teach the alchemy of success, right? I teach some mindset things, some spiritual things, business, networking, and whatever else people got questions about. It's a comprehensive course and community, and you get time with me. So yeah, I've been building that. It's a lot of fun. I'm building my personal brand on YouTube, Instagram, etc. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And I think the most fulfilling work I have been able to do is actually teaching people and changing their lives. When I can look at somebody and speak to them and see in their eyes that something has switched, I'm like, it's the most fulfilling feeling. And in music, I thought that's what it was giving me, right? I was making this certain type of music, is motivational, is inspirational. I would inspire people on stage and stuff like that. But it's not the same as what I'm doing now. Like now I make like definite automatic change in people. And that's the most fulfilling thing for me. So yeah, the next realm is what I have launched and it's available now at sethdyer.com.
So there's a lot of business gurus out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, people doing like 50 million per year, 100 million per year. You could go to those conferences. Why should someone work with Seth Dyer in the next realm?
because because I have been through things that a lot of these other guys have not been through, right? Like I can teach people how to persevere. I can teach people how to become incredibly accountable for their life. And that's really like the secret sauce, right? Because I believe almost anyone can achieve what they want. They just need the right mental models. You know what I mean? And it's so much more than money. Money is a byproduct of who you are. You know what I mean? You need to become the person worthy of certain amounts of money. When I look at myself when I was making like no money, I'm like, yeah, that's what you deserve. That's what you deserved at that time, bro. like when I look at it, I'm like, that's what you deserved at that time.
Harsh but
And
true.
yeah, and when I look at my life now, it's like you're getting exactly what you deserve. So some of the people in my program, I have these conversations with them, and it's like, bro, you are where you are because of that is what you deserve. But I'm gonna help you deserve more. I'm gonna turn you into the person money is worthy of, who is worthy of money, who attracts money, right? And attracts people. So yeah, that's where I'm different. My story is different, right? These guys can't, these guys can't take a punch. You know what I mean? These guys haven't
Literally.
gone through, these guys haven't gone through facing death's door. It'd be a multiple amounts of time I have. So yeah, man, that's why people should learn alchemy from Dyer.
So yeah, I'll post that in the link, guys. Definitely check them out. Um, one, I wanted to see what you would say, but also to kind of like pump you up a little bit more. It's you're like you just did it, like basically, like
Mm-hmm.
you just went in 2 years ago, literally like sleeping on a floor, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, and now I live in the suburbs.
yeah, bro, like I've seen the earnings, bro. He's killing it, guys. So like it's fresh. Like you just went through the shit that a lot of your clients have gone through. It's not like you haven't been a millionaire for like 20 years and like
Yeah.
disconnected. You literally
Yeah.
it's
It's
like
not
yesterday.
dissociative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not dissociative. I can relate back to those points. And I think also it's a superpower in that sense because I've seen both sides of life. Like I've seen what it's like to be incredibly, incredibly broke. And my parents didn't have money either, right? And I moved out at 16 years old. That's another story, right? But I know what it's like to struggle, bro. And I know what it's like to be making money and push yourself into the top 1% of earners, right? Now I'm going for 0.01%, right? And I know what it's like to do that. And I can look back here as vividly as if it happened yesterday. You know what I mean? Because I know what it is. I really know what it is. You know, a lot of these other guys, they'll fake it. I've really been there, bro. Like I've really been there. So it's a different mentality. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Also, it's back to like what we were talking about, like, make it seem real. I
Mm-hmm.
think like the reason why I'm not doing like those, I'm not spending like $100,000 to be in those rooms, or maybe I feel like you gotta go level by level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can work with someone like if you literally like you're sleeping on the floor, you're broke, you're in the negative, you can work with someone that like 2 years ago was in the exact spot,
And you
right?
know what's funny about that too? So here's the thing about credibility when it comes to this teaching stuff, right? Is that a lot of people think, okay, they're at level zero and they think they need to jump to the multi-billionaire to learn how to make money.
Exactly, that's what I'm talking about.
But there's a dissociation there. The
Yeah.
billionaire's mind works so far away from what this is that the things they tell you won't a lot of time won't even click, right? You're not ready for them, right? So it's actually better for you. Like if you're at level zero, talk to a level one, two, or three, right? Who is actually closer to that and can tell you the steps for where you are. Because a lot of
Mhm.
the time, the guy that's over here is like, I this is peasantry to me. Like I don't even think about this, right?
the
So
the
so
billionaire
you
is going to tell you to like go walk on coals and
exactly.
get in touch with your soul, bro. Like
Exactly. So
ayahuasca and
like
shit like
I
that.
look at because some people are like that. Some people will like discredit people simply because like they're not multi-deca millionaires yet, right?
Mhm.
But if you are making $2,000 a month and somebody else is making 4 to 10K a month, they know something you don't know. You know what I'm saying? They know something you don't know. So why would you not talk to them? And they're
Yeah,
probably going to be cheaper than talking to the billionaire. You
and
get
more
to a level
time,
with
right?
them, you keep moving, and then you get the money to talk to a billionaire. So yeah,
Yo, well, guys, check it out. Highly recommend it. I'm sure it's gonna be dope. All right, I got a couple just like random questions like
nice.
to ask people to to uh to wrap it up. So we already asked about the life-changing book. Oh, here's one. What's like your like do you have a good current like follow on social media or podcast or anything like that you're learning from as we speak?
That's a good question. I think actually Diary of a CEO. This guy Steven from the UK. He has some interesting guests on there sometimes. You know, his mentality, the way he approaches it, I feel is kind of like therapist like, which I'm not really into, but I think some of his guests are really cool and some of the questions he asks are really cool. So I've been listening to that a lot lately. Diary of a CEO.
So and were podcasts and books and things like that a big part of like your level up, or is this
Yeah,
stuff kind of internal?
books for sure, podcasts more recently, but books for sure. Like I got you can't see here, but like there's books all there, right? And tons of stuff. Think and Grow Rich, 50th Law, 48 Laws of Power, all the Robert Greene stuff. there's this book Nipsey Hussle recommended called Power versus Force, which is it's a tough read. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of drawl, but there's a chart in there that talks about like frequencies of emotion and like how that influences your life. So that's pretty useful book. At Power versus Force, like some people try and force things, some people are actually powerful, and what's the difference there? You know, that was a good read. uh what else, man? The 50th Law, obviously. Charlemagne the God's book, his first book, Black Privilege. That was a good read for me because here's the thing for me, right? I understand racism exists and all this type of stuff, but to me, it's like if there is a running race, right? And if I just get to the end of the race, all my hopes and dreams are at the finish line. And to the left of me, there is somebody that has an open lane, no obstacles, nothing. They will get to the finish line easy. To the right of me, somebody's got two hurdles to jump over, then they have a clear way to go, run. And then my lane has a fucking fire pit and a fire breathing dragon and a water to swim through or whatever, right? More obstacles. Why would I not run? You know what I mean? Why would I still not run? I don't have to come in first place, second place, third place. I could come in 50th place. As long as I cross the finish line, I will have all my hopes and dreams. And that's how I look at it, right? Despite my one thing my mom always told me, she's like, I never want to hear you use the excuse that you're black to not be successful, right? So that's how I see it. I'm like, okay, maybe there's some obstacles, but that doesn't mean I won't win. I will win. And Black Privilege, Charlemagne the God's book, is kind of about that concept where, like, bro, you got to take ownership of your life no matter what. No matter what. These are the cards you're dealt. So win, you know? Yeah.
Well, it's back to that lesson you learned when you were four, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously some people that have the exact, different mindset, like, oh, I'm born in this community, or I look like this, or what have you. So I'm fucked. And they go
Yeah.
through thinking that.
Yeah. So that was a really good book. And I'll give you one more. Let me just slide over here and take a look. The Tipping Point. Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell was really cool to learn about how things catch attention and become like viral and popular. That was a cool
Okay.
book. He's Canadian too, like me. So that was yeah,
Shout out, eh?
yeah.
All right, I got a dope one that I think you're gonna like before we wrap it up. But then I
Sweet.
want to ask this first. Like, it doesn't have to be the biggest. It could be the biggest, but like a big L or the biggest L you've ever had, and what did you learn from that?
Um, Geez, that's a good question. Because like due to the way my mind works, I'm like looked at all the L's as good things. But
Mhm.
I think
Let me
a big,
rephrase it. Let me rephrase it then. Like, if other people from the outside looking in, like, what's the craziest like L that they would see and be like, damn, that's a hard L.
I think the relationship I had with my ex, where we were together for 7 years, right? And I was living with her, we're living together, and where we were living, the landlord sold the place and the new landlord wanted to move in. Really, they were just trying to move in and like soup up the place and then like rent it for hire, right? So we had to move out far, far out into the suburbs at a place that was nearly triple the rent, right?
Mm.
And and I was like, and at the time we were also like not in a good place. Like I was basically done. Like I knew I was gonna leave her, and we were in like a whole bunch of war. She had thrown my clothes outside, right? All this type of stuff, and I still went back, right? Like, see, I teach relationships now, and Brandon knows this. And
Mhm.
this relationship taught me a shit ton as to why I'm able to teach it so well. Because all the guys that come to me end up with happy, happy times, right? But so yeah, uh, went there to go live together there. Rent was triple, and within maybe a month or two of that, I was like, I'm out. Right, I packed up my stuff. I was out, and I had to, my name was on the lease, so I still had to pay the rent for another 10 months, right? And I managed to scrounge together the money every month to pay it. So
Right.
that was tough. It was real tough. One, the like social effect of it, because like everybody thought we were this perfect couple, right? And you know, people thought all kind of stuff about me, the money aspect, the situation itself of like the war and turmoil of it, my family, right? Because a lot of stuff was intertwined. My family, her family, was tough. So uh but then now I look at that and I'm once again grateful for that entire experience because that taught me so much to be able to teach guys what not to do or what to do, right? Like when it comes to relationships, when I coach people on that, that's also how I've made a lot of money too, is relationship coaching. Is I've like I said, I come from a time of bad things and now I have great things. Like I have a great relationship now for nearly the same amount of time, 6 7 years. Yeah. So yeah, that was a L that I look at as a W now though. Like I'm like I learned a shit
Well,
ton from that.
was there anything specific you took away from that, or just like relationships
Your
in general?
boundaries, bro. You as a man have to have boundaries, right? There's a YouTube video I have coming out where I talk about 5 things in terms of relationships and people respecting you, but one of them is to maintain your boundaries. Do not compromise who you are as a man in order to appease a woman because it will make you resentful. It will make you unhappy. It will make her unhappy. Because if she can push your boundaries and break your boundaries and crush your boundaries, what does that mean for everyone else in the world? That means they can do it to you worse. And how is she supposed to be safe with you if other people can do that to you in worse ways? And when I look at my life at the time, I had a lot of my boundaries pushed and crossed, right? Other people in business and shit did that to me too, right? So I don't blame her for acting the way she acted. I don't blame her for certain things that occurred, right? But now I'm like, I have my boundaries. There are lines in the sand. If they're crossed, I'm out. And that's fine, you know?
And if you let them get crossed, it's a slow death from there.
Yep.
I've also learned that one as well, my friend.
Yeah. 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 So
All
it's
right,
very
bro.
important.
Last one. I think you're gonna like this one. Autobiography about Seth Dyer. What's the title gonna be?
Enter the next realm.
You got already thought of that, haven't you?
Yeah.
Dope, dope.
Yeah.
All right, bro. Well, epic answers, bro. Thank you so much for coming on. One last time, what's the where can the people find you? Let them know about the YouTube, and
Yeah.
then how they can
So
find out about the
on
next realm.
So where I'm most active would be Instagram. So that's at Seth Dyer underscore SETHDYER underscore is my Instagram. And my YouTube is Dyer Days, DYERDAYS, Dyer Days. I love doing YouTube. Y'all have a great time on my YouTube. I enjoy it a lot. And my development program is called The Next Realm. You can get it on my website at sethdyer.com.
Awesome. All right, brother. Thank you for coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. That was a lot of fun.
All right, bro.
All right.